finally got an end to one of the Rabbitohs sagas. So the Rabbitohs go into tonight's game. Thursday. It's Thursday, so tonight's game with a new coach, interim coach, Ben Hornby, with Dimitriou being showing the door yesterday or the day before.
Tuesday night,
and they're trying to say that Wayne Bennett will be back next year too.
Yeah, so another quiet week in rugby league, eh? Even Anthony Albanese commented on Dimitriou's sacking. I would have thought the Prime Minister would have enough to deal with a cost of living crisis going on at the moment than to be talking about a football team sacking a coach. But anyway.
No, sport's very important. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, they had to, I think the time had come, they had to pull the trigger on Dimitriou. The way it was done was very messy, though. I mean, making the decision only 48 hours before this Panthers game that's going to be played tonight, as you just mentioned. They could have done this after that round 6 loss to the Sharks, going into the bye, and they would have given Ben Hornby a lot more time to get his house in order. Making this decision 48 hours before a game against the best team in the competition, the team that's won the last 3 premierships. I mean, seriously.
After getting smashed by the second best team in the competition, and still waiting a few days,
they got thrashed. It was I'm pretty sure it was on Anzac Day, that game, so it was on Thursday. So they waited 5 days to make a decision that they could have made Thursday night after the game. And then they've only given Ben Hornby 48 hours to get the team ready for this Panthers game. So they've just sort of botched this whole thing.
There's a lot going on over at the Rabbitohs that just speaks to their management or whatever, because they've also, one of the other things they've done is they've given Lachlan Ilias permission to talk to other clubs. Now, he copped all the blame, basically. They dropped him for Dean Hawkins however long ago it was. Because, he was the guy whose fault it was that the Rabbitohs were doing so poorly, apparently. And now they've let him negotiate with other clubs after he's broken his leg and he's going to be out for the year anyway.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they've sacked their coach. Whoever's coming in next year has basically... doesn't have the ability to have a say in where the halves are going, because they've dropped their what was originally their first choice halfback and now is their second choice halfback. So basically, the coach coming in next year will be left with Dean Hawkins and Cody Walker, and that's it.
Well, it looks like you mentioned the halves, so it looks like they've actually signed Lewis Dodd from the Super League, and I think that's what's sort of led to them. I think once Braith Anasta is Lachlan Ilias' agent, and once Anasta had seen that they'd signed Lewis Dodd, he's asked Blake Solly for permission to negotiate. Blake Solly's given him that permission now, so Anasta's now going to negotiate with other clubs. But interestingly, Anasta was also saying that Bennett's Dolphins assistant coach Christian Wolf brought Dodd onto the scene, so knows a lot about Dodd. And Anasta's theory is that, Bennett's had a hand in this signing of Dodd on the advice of Christian Wolf. I guess implying that, he's basically already got the job. So he's already accepted the job in theory, even though obviously it's not official yet. So that's an interesting theory as well, because you wouldn't want to be. It would have been bizarre if they'd just gone and signed this playmaker from the Super League without having the approval of a new coach. That's the sort of thing that, if the new coach doesn't agree with the signing, it could leave you in a hole for years.
Well, it gives the new coach an out as well. It's one of those things where they can come in next year and say, well, it's not my team. I didn't have any say over the team.
Exactly.
I need to do a clean out, so the Rabbitohs could go through a poor period of a couple of years.
Yeah, and they've already and they've gone pretty much 12 months of giving their players an out with their coach. They don't want to then go giving their coach an out. They've got to stop giving people outs all the time.
Yeah,
But
so the other rumor is that next week when Latrell Mitchell is back, Latrell will be in the centres, Cody Walker will be the 7, and Jack Whiten will move to 5'8", and Jai Gray will retain his spot.
Fullback, yeah.
That's the rumblings coming out. Even post Ben Hornby. So Ben Hornby, I think if Ben Hornby has the power, whoever the coach is, has the power to move Latrell Mitchell out of his preferred position from fullback to centre, and can control that narrative and make it doesn't even need to be some improvement, but forcing Latrell Mitchell to do something he doesn't want to do, then that immediately gives that coach like a lot of kudos on my behalf.
Yes, exactly. And now the players no longer have an excuse. The excuse has been taken away from them by removing the coach. So with players of that calibre, you talk about Latrell Mitchell, Cody Walker, Jack Whiten, we now might see a response out of the playing group now that the coach has been sacked. Just looking back now that he's gone, looking back at Dimitriou's tenure at the club a little bit. So reached the prelim final in 2022 in his first season. In 2023, he finished 9th after leading the competition after 11 rounds. So at that 11-round point last year, leading the competition, it all fell apart. And since then, they've only won 5 of their last 20 games. And after 8 rounds in 2024, they're last on the ladder. So that's led them to pulling the trigger on Dimitriou. I suspect we talked a fair bit about that. Sam Burgess calling South out for giving Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker that preferential treatment. I suspect Dimitriou probably saw Sam Burgess as a threat to his job, because Sam Burgess is a club legend working as an assistant coach. And I think that's why they didn't get on, and that's why Dimitriou was happy to see the back of him. But as it turned out, he should have reconciled with Burgess and listened to him, because he's ended up losing his job anyway.
Blake Solly had some interviews and wouldn't comment on it, basically. But everyone knows. You can extrapolate that, what the go is. Like, Sam Burgess was right. Everyone is forever going to be saying Sam Burgess was right. That's that. And I noticed yesterday another article came out, which I've read before, about how when Wayne Bennett does go to the Rabbitohs, the Dolphins won't be in the same place as all the other team Wayne Bennett has left, and the Christian Wolf is the man to take over the Dolphins and not have a collapse. But go through Wayne Bennett's history. He left the Broncos. They did well for a couple of years and then died. He went to the Dragons. After he left, they did well for a year and then died. Then he went to Newcastle. After he left, they did okay for a year and then died completely. And he went back to the Broncos. They did okay for a little while and died. Now he's gone to the Dolphins. And the thing is about all of those, one of the interesting things I saw on Reddit yesterday was about all the coaches that took over him. All of them had very successful times prior to him as well, actually. Mm-hmm. So, was it Steve Price won a Jersey flag or something in the lower grades after he left the Dragons? Michael Seibold was the most improved. Anthony Seibold. He was the most improved coach at the Rabbitohs, and then moved to the Broncos after Wayne Bennett and collapsed. Who was it? It was Rick Stone, I think, that took over at Newcastle. He won some, or went very well in the juniors. And the simple fact is, Wayne Bennett, when he leaves a club, he takes the staff and players with him, and a new coach comes in and has to rebuild all the staff and players. And that doesn't... rebuild phases are well known as to what they are. They're periods of going very, very poorly.
Yeah.
Like that's it. So
it's an excuse for going poorly.
The last thing the Dolphins need 2 years after coming into the competition is a rebuild phase.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you bring up Wayne Bennett. I mean, they're quick to get him back. I know he made a grand final there in 2021, but I know he's won 7 premierships, but 6 of the 7 were with a star-studded Brisbane Broncos side that was littered with Origin and Test stars. Can you think of a coach who wouldn't have won those premierships that he won at the Broncos with the roster that he had there in 92, 93, 97, 98, 2000 and 2006.
Well, when it comes, I've had this conversation a few times, right? When it comes to that, up until the Broncos Cowboys
Grand final in 2015, yep.
Everyone always said that, but when you look at any premiership winning team, they are actually all star-studded and representative players. Like when he was at the Dragons, all of those players became representatives as well. So there's the flip side. Like, would those players have been superstars if Wayne Bennett hadn't been their coach? He also had, for most of his coaching career, a 100% grand final win rate when he coached alone, because I think he went to the grand final with the Raiders, but he was in a co-coach, right? So when he had full control with the Broncos, he was able to win those grand finals. And there were in all of those grand finals, he played the other star-studded team. You know, like their team played the other star-studded team. Like the only one I could speak to like a lot is like 2010, where they had Mitchell Pearce. Yeah. Todd Carney, Anthony Minicello, who was a Jake Friend. There was a star-studded lineup against what you would call a star-studded lineup for that year, because most of the Dragons got picked for Origin, you know, or All-Stars or whatever. So it's a funny thing to say, like, would any coach have won? Because there's still a large element of coaching to get that premiership, to get that grand final win. Like your players will only take you so far, and then the coach has to get you over the line. But also the opposite, you know, the coach can only take you so far, and the players have to get you over the line. And yeah, like I think what Wayne Bennett does, kind of like Craig Bellamy or historically has done, is created superstars. Like Neville Costigan was a good example. You know, he was all potential, all collapse when he was at, I think, Canberra. He was at Canberra before or something like that. Went to the Dragons, became one of their key players. Followed Wayne Bennett to the Knights, was still a representative star. Michael Wayman was another one, like always thereabout, but became a state of origin prop. Justin Paul, even Jamie Soward. Like Jamie Soward was too good for Premier League, whatever the lower grade was at that time. Too good for Jersey Flegg. I don't know what the lower grade was at that time. Too good for that when he was at the Jets. Not good enough for first grade when he was at the Roosters. Moved to the Dragons with Wayne Bennett and became a state of origin player and one of the best halves in the comp. Moved away from Wayne Bennett and to the Panthers he went after that, and got sacked halfway through his contract. You know, there's a lot of... Ben Hornby was like a journeyman who became arguably amongst a lot of Dragons fans. He should have won the Clive Churchill medal for preventing tries and setting up tries. So there's that element to it. But I think what Wayne Bennett does is he brings in staff and systems, recruits well, coaches well, and then when he leaves and takes his staff, the new coach who comes in can't continue those systems because they have to train a whole bunch more staff. They have to get a whole bunch of players. Like he took Tyson Frizzell, Neville Costigan, and Darius Boyd to the Knights with him when he left the Dragons. It was a joke. It was just... Who else left? Jeremy Smith, I think, was another one that left. You know, like it was about 6 players out of the 17. It was a joke, plus all the staff. So yeah, like he hasn't won any premierships since 2010, and he's now lost 2 premierships. So that aura of the unbeatable premiership wins is gone. It's also the thing where like he actually beat Brian Smith 4 times? I think 4 times. 3 or 4 times. He beat Brian Smith multiple times in grand finals.
Well, 2010.
Yeah.
Probably 92, 93 when Brian Smith was at the Dragons. That's 3 times I can think of off the top of my head. What about the others? 98 wasn't, 2000.
So that was always the funny thing. Like
2000.
Would Wayne Bennett have won all those premierships with his star-studded lineups with the Broncos if he hadn't have been coaching against Brian Smith? Because Paul Green had the wood on him in premiership things. Like Paul Green won 100% of coaching, 100% of premierships that he coached against Wayne Bennett in. So yeah, like that's just a what if thing, you know. Like it's hard to say. 100% provable, definitive thing is when Wayne Bennett leaves a club, that club collapses. And Jason Dimitriou is now gone after being a Wayne Bennett being in a post Wayne Bennett situation. Doesn't matter how, like I said a few weeks ago, Jason Dimitriou might be a very good coach. He's just unfortunately the 17th worst coach in the NRL right now, and it just so happens that he's a coach of a team that is in a post Wayne Bennett period. This is going to happen to the Dolphins, and it's going to happen to the Rabbitohs again, based on history. 100% of the time he's left the club, they've gone to crap. So I feel bad. I wouldn't want to be Ben Hornby. But maybe there's something there, like what the, as we've discussed, he's apparently a smart operator. Maybe there's something there where they've said, if you can get us off the bottom of the ladder, you get to take over and get your say. But I doubt it, because Wayne Bennett's coming back. And if I was the Rabbitohs, I wouldn't bring Wayne Bennett back. The Dolphins are apparently throwing a lot of money at Wayne Bennett to keep him at the Dolphins in the head of football position. Because maybe that will be the solution to the Wayne Bennett leaving a club curse. Maybe Christian Wolf having Wayne Bennett there will be able to break the curse. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm just having a look back at that Brian Smith. I think it was 92, 93 and 2010 where he coached against Wayne Bennett in grand finals and got beaten.
So almost 50% of his coaching Wayne Bennett's premierships are against Brian Smith.
Yeah, well, 3 of the 7, yeah. You mentioned that Wayne Bennett winning that premiership with the Dragons in 2010. I think that's his best coaching achievement, because that was with a club that had struggled had a long premiership drought up to that point. That was the Dragons' first premiership in decades. So I think there he proved a lot more than what he did at the Broncos, in my view, winning that one premiership with the Dragons, coming in, taking that team to a premiership.
In 2 years as well.
Yeah, I just thought, when he won, a lot of his, especially in the 1990s and that one in 2000, when he won those premierships with the Broncos, that was still at a time even then where players didn't move around all that much, and he had the best Queensland kids to pick from and take and play at the Broncos. And I thought there were a lot of seasons there. I think between 2001 and 2005, Bennett didn't win a premiership at the Broncos, and they still had a very, very strong roster that you could argue should have won premierships in that period of time. So, that's what I would say to that. And that 1998 Broncos team that won the premiership, you could argue that was the best club side of all time. Or the star-studded roster they had that year. So that's just where I sort of go, Didn't he win? I just think I know he's got a really good record as a coach, but I just think a lot of coaches could have won those premierships that he won at the Broncos with those players on their roster.
Also you got to remember, part of being a good coach is attracting the players. So would those players have gone to other clubs if Wayne Bennett hadn't have been at the Broncos? Who knows? Maybe other coaches would have been able to attract them. There was a period of time between 2006 and 2013 where only 3 coaches won premierships. It was Wayne Bennett, Craig Bellamy, and Des Hasler. So that was a 7-year period in which only 3 coaches won premierships. And as you say, like the Dragons one was the crowning achievement. That's one of the things that happens in MMA, and that was the whole thing about Georges St-Pierre, whether Georges St-Pierre was the greatest of all time. When he came back, one of his coaches, John Danaher, discussed it. To make Georges St-Pierre one of the greatest of all times was he needed to win at a different weight class, which he hadn't done before. Win a belt at a different weight class. I think it was get a submission. It's like there was a few things, but the main one was win at a different weight class. And when you look at those other coaches, even in the current Supercoach thing, like the ratings of Supercoach, out of all the coaches in the league right now, only Wayne Bennett has won premierships at 2 clubs, right? Trent Robinson hasn't. Nathan Cleary hasn't.
Ivan Cleary, yeah.
Nathan Cleary. Des Hasler hasn't. Craig Bellamy's obviously hasn't. Not many of the...
I think off the top of my head that is right, but...
Not many of the coaches in the league have actually won a premiership right now, let alone at multiple clubs.
It's true, but he hasn't won one since 2010, and he is 74 years of age as well. And you mentioned, the state that he leaves clubs in. I mean, look, it's right in front of South. Look where they are now after Wayne Bennett.
He might come back. Like the Broncos, you can learn from the Broncos, because he left the Broncos and they missed the finals for the first time ever. You know, when Ivan Henjak there and Anthony Griffin or whatever was there. Then he went back after Anthony Seibold, and then he left, and they took him years to fix.
Mm.
So bringing him back doesn't fix your problem. It just extends it, actually.
He's 74 years of age. He hasn't won one since 2010. I know he made grand finals in 2015 and 2021. But, it's just, you know what I mean? There's just some things that you think about where you go, should they be so quick to reinstate Wayne Bennett?
I don't think they should. Yeah, the Broncos never missed the finals in their thing until Wayne Bennett left, all right? Then he left and they missed the finals, and then he came back, and when did he leave again? He left in 2021. And what happened in 2022?
With the Rabbitohs?
No, with the Broncos.
But he left the Rabbitohs in 2021.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, he left the Broncos again in 2018. And what happened there? That's what I meant to say, 2018. What happened then? They missed the finals multiple times. They were a bit of a basket case until Kevy came. Because that's what he does. The Broncos missed the finals in 2021, 2022. Was it 2020 did they make it? 2020 they missed the finals.
I think that they might have even won the spoon in 2020, the Broncos. I think.
Yes, they did. Yeah. So that's what he does. He left the Broncos, a club that had never missed the finals and had won 6 premierships, and they went to the crap. They went to garbage. When was it? It was 2009 to 2011. Well, between 2009 and 2015, they were so bad they brought Wayne Bennett back. And then he left again, and they went to garbage. And it's only now, when finally Kevy got his job, after 20 years of trying, that they finally come good again. So,
and yet they're quick seemingly, they're quickly picking up the phone to Russell Crowe's picking up the phone to him, trying to bring him back.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. The Dolphins are the Dolphins should be panicking. No matter how many news articles come out saying, Christian Wolf is the man to break the Wayne Bennett curse and this is why he's going to not collapse next year, the Dolphins should be panicking, because if Wayne Bennett goes to another club, he's going to take the staff, he's going to take the players, and the club that is already in a building phase is going to have to move into a rebuilding phase and be garbage. Mm. So
yeah,
I know this part of it was meant to be about Jason Dimitriou, but I think
I guess we're covering. I mean, there's a lot of
Wayne Bennett.
There's a lot to cover with the Dimitriou departure. There's many layers to it, so we're just.
But I think Wayne Bennett is really the thing that can change the course of a few teams next couple of years over Jason Dimitriou getting sacked. He can really change a lot. He has such a large impact on the outcome of the ladder for the next few years after he leaves a club, because that's what he does.
I saw Blake Solu, the Rabbitohs CEO, on NRL 360, and he mentioned that Braith and Astor really questioned him on the strength of the Rabbitohs pathways there. And he mentioned that they won the New South Wales Cup and the NRL State Championship last year, but he also mentioned, Blake Solly, that they won the Jersey Flag competition in 2019. That's 5 years ago now. Why is he bringing that up as a retort to question marks about their pathways? If they'd won the Jersey Flag last year or the year before, okay, raise it. But 2019, that's 5 years ago now. He can't be bringing that up now as a way of vouching for their pathways.
To deflect from the fact that their first grade club is in the shitter.
Who told him to trot that out? Hey, Blake, we won the Jersey Flag in 2019. Make sure you mention that one, mate. Seriously. And you know, I got to say, I hope Latrell Mitchell's happy about his coach being sacked, because I mean, you know, this was a coach who backed Latrell Mitchell to the point where Sam Burgess even walked out on the club because he thought that Latrell Mitchell was given special treatment. So this apparently was a coach who gave Latrell Mitchell special treatment, and this was how he was repaid by Latrell Mitchell, not putting in enough effort over the last 12 months, showing ill discipline all the time. Every week this year there's been something. It's only stopped now because he's been suspended. But every week there's been something with Latrell Mitchell.
Well, we had last week. We're going to talk about in a minute. He's going to withdraw from Origin, a thing that he wasn't.
Yeah, so even when he's suspended, there's stories coming out. But this was how Latrell Mitchell repaid Jason Dimitriou, not putting in for him, not putting in. Now his coach is sacked. So I hope you're happy with yourself, Latrell. Yeah, well, I really do, because I think that his lack of effort is obviously not the only factor, of course not, but it is a key factor in Jason Dimitriou's sacking.
It's a major contributor. And so we can talk about him. So the NRL has come out and said that he can't withdraw from Origin.
No.
As we said, when he announced that he was wanted to withdraw his name from Origin contention to concentrate on the Rabbitohs, no one was picking you anyway, brother.
No. This is the thing that...
so the NRL can block him withdrawing from Origin all they want.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just quote... I mean, Michael Chammas went into it on Channel 9, that Channel 9 show, 100% Footy, and he said the NRL's argument will be the reason they are paid so well is because the money that Origin generates for the game, and they need their best players available. So it's the NRL really wanting their best players to be on show in Origin. But my counter to that would be, look, if a player doesn't want to be there, well, then it's really hard to force them to... If a player really doesn't want to be playing State of Origin, how do you force them to play, especially when you got so many other players who really want to bang the door down and play State of Origin?
They have rules for it, right? They have made rules for it. I know. There's the rule of, like, you can't withdraw yourself through injury or sickness and then play for your team. That was because of city country.
So that's the rule, isn't it? Like, you can't... If you do withdraw from Origin, well, you can't play for your club in that week where you would have missed the game if you were playing Origin. Yeah.
But, yeah, as you say, like, if he rocks up and he's not trying, then of course the coach is going to get rid of him anyway. But if the coach kicks him out because he's not trying, I don't know if there's rules around that, but can he then contact the NRL and say, like, Latrell clearly didn't want to be here and was playing up and being an idiot, so I've sacked him from the Origin, and then can the NRL go, well, we're going to suspend you from the next game and you can't play in the next game? Because they could keep him on as, like, 18th man or so. I don't know what the rules are, but he was never going to get picked. So the conjecture about it is irrelevant. And him withdrawing himself from contention was irrelevant because he was never going to get picked. Anyone who picked Latrell Mitchell for Origin was mad. And I see people on, like, TikTok and stuff posting their Origin teams, and they are mad when they put Latrell. Some people put Latrell in their team. They are mad. Why would you put Latrell Mitchell over anybody right now? Anyone?
No, you wouldn't.
Like, you got Crichton over at the Bulldogs carving up in what is now a top 8 team. So there's a centre.
Tom Turbo will be the other centre.
If Tom Trbojevic isn't picked at fullback, the only other fullback there that could probably take Tom Trbojevic's spot is Dylan Edwards. If he's not picked at fullback, of course he's going to go to the centre. So... Yeah. Nobody would pick Latrell Mitchell. Some weirdos on the internet do, though.
No. It's almost like this is out there as a bit of a distraction. Talk about this so you're not really talking about the poor form that Latrell's shown up to this point of the season. But, I mean, Phil Gould said what we all thought. He said that he doesn't think Latrell even wants to play State of Origin anyway. Yeah. And I think he's on the money there. I think you could see that he hasn't played State of Origin since 2021, and I know he's had injury problems and everything, but you know you can just tell his attitude's off towards rep football in general. Remember last year that Kangaroo squad, he pulled out of that with an injury, and then he went and played in the Keary knockout. So his whole attitude towards representative football is just not there.
I can't understand when a player doesn't want to do representative football simply because of the money. Like, you get paid big dollars.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you wouldn't. You get paid by your club and you get paid by the rep. So it's bizarre to me if they don't want to do it. I want that money. I think it's like $30,000 or something for an Origin game.
Yeah.
I know it went up and then went down again.
I think it went down because of COVID and they were cutting everything. I don't know whether it's gone back up now or not.
But it's a huge amount of money.
It's huge. Yeah,
you got to be crazy to not do it.
They do well out of it. Yeah.
But he's not going to get picked. Anyone, no chance Maguire's going to pick him. He's got, when was it? I've got it written down somewhere, but teams are named on the 26th. He can't play this week, which is tonight, so he's got 2 weeks. So when is the Rabbitohs playing in that week even as well? So he's got next week he'll have, which is against the Dragons. Yeah. God knows what's going to happen there.
And then he's got
the Cowboys. And then the week after, he's got on the Saturday they're playing the Eels.
Yeah, and then the team gets named
on the Sunday.
The 26th.
Yeah, so the Sunday or the 27th on the Monday. I can't remember.
Yeah, so either one of them, 26th.
So he's got 3 games to prove himself. He'd have to do, unless Latrell Mitchell goes out there. I mean, if he does end up playing centre and ends up carving up and. But getting over the Dragons isn't all that. You never know who's going to turn up on that. Getting over the Eels right now isn't even a very good thing. They're down on form. They're down on troops. Getting over the Cowboys might be something, but it's going to depend on who he carves up against in his opposing player as well. So, look,
I find it very very unlikely for him to be featuring in the Origin series this year. Yeah. Well, we did have that situation where Manly's Jamie Lyon made himself exempt from Origin back in 2010. So that is another example of a player who did make themselves exempt from Origin. But my thoughts on it are that, look, if the player doesn't want to be there, well then, you can stand them down from that game they were meant to miss anyway. But I don't think you can really do any more.
You wouldn't pick them. Yeah. If they're in the media going...
doesn't want to... It's state of origin. If someone doesn't want to play, you don't pick them. You pick someone who wants to be there.
Someone's in the media going, I don't want to be in Origin. And it's like, cool, I'm not going to pick you.
Yeah, seriously. It's not rocket science, is it? The vast majority of players would give anything to play state of origin. There are very few examples of players not wanting to play.
Yeah, 100%. Meanwhile, there's and I was talking to Piercy the other day about Paul Kent. Mm-hmm. It was funny. I was on the phone to him, and he said, like, how's that thing with Kenny? And he was saying to me, like, do you think he'll get sacked? And I said, like I said to you the other day, I don't think he'll get sacked unless he gets charged. And so he's been charged with affray now.
Yeah, he has, yeah.
So he had broken ribs and a collapsed lung from being thrown at a tree, ending up upside down.
Yes.
Again, Kenny, come up to the gym, bro. I think you're double leg, so that doesn't happen to you. But he's been charged with affray. He's obviously not able to comment because of court proceedings. Affray just means the police have charged you with having a public fight. So at any time, if you ever have a public fight, the police can charge you with affray. It's minimal thing. There's not going to be jail time or anything like that. He could cop a fine, community service, suspended sentence, good behaviour bond, anything like that. But I think that'd spell the end of him for his media commitments, probably.
Well, this is the thing. It's not. You mentioned that this charge is a minor charge, so it's not really about the charge itself. It's about what the charge means for his career. Yeah, that's what this is really about. For the offence itself and the courts. If he's found, he's charged. If he is found guilty, the courts are just going to give him a slap on the wrist here. The issue is, as you alluded to, what does this mean for his career going forward? He's been granted bail to appear before Downing Centre local court on May 24, so that's his court date, May 24. The 35-year-old man who was involved in the scuffle with him was earlier charged with affray as well, and he's been granted conditional bail to appear before the same court on June 7. Unfortunately for Kent, this 35-year-old man has hired high-profile criminal defence lawyer Chris Murphy to take on the case. So, and he's due to face court on June 7. So Chris Murphy's one of the country's most well-known solicitors. He's defended Sam Burgess, Hazem El Masri, Sean Kenny Dowell, actor Matthew Newton, boxer Jeff Fennick, the Rolling Stones, and music superstar Rod Stewart in the past. So this is what...
Who's the guy that he got in the biff with?
Yeah.
Bankroll, man.
Yeah.
But
unless,
like,
I don't know. Is because Chris Murphy seemed to be... I think he came out and he was critical of Paul Kent. After I wonder whether Chris Murphy's offered to do this for nothing.
Well, in the end, man, most affray charges, I talked to some of my friends who are lawyers, most affray charges don't even go into the court. You know, what happens, because it's such a minor charge, really, it ends up being a deal before the court. Like, and that's it. Like, you rock up, because everyone's scheduled at 9 a.m. for court. You rock up, and the police prosecutor deals with it, talks in a closed room with the lawyer all day, and then comes out and they go, you know what, we're not doing the court. We've made a decision. You're just going on a good behaviour bond. Sweet. All right. See you later. Apparently, that's what happens with most of them. So, you know, Paul Kent's going to have to go to court for that day. It's also really hard to plead not guilty to. Like, it's really hard to win.
It's such a minor charge.
Yeah, because it is. The charge is you had a fight in public.
Yeah. And
they clearly did.
There's video of it.
They clearly did. Yeah. And so it's really hard to say, I'm not guilty of having a fight in public. Yeah, sure. You actually did. But I reckon that might be for a period of time, maybe for the next year, an end of Paul Kent's stuff. He'd probably have to go start a podcast or his own independent Substack or something like that.
So you think he'll be gone as a result of this?
Yeah, for a period. Like he'll get sacked. They'll do the cursory, like, we're going to have to sack him now. Probably after the court case, if he gets guilty, even though the guilty will be a good behaviour bond, he'll probably get, because this is the second or third time there's been an issue like this, so they'll probably.
He was found not guilty of those charges last year,
but it's one of those ones where it's like, put yourself in the situation. You're bringing negative press and so on and so forth. I know it's we got a comment later, but it's a shame for the stuff that Paul Kent's on, because respective, I don't know what the word is, regardless of what happens in his personal life or private life outside of the his media commitments, he's one of the best media commentators for sports across all mediums, like one of the best to listen to, and like, no matter whether you like him or hate him, what he says holds weight in sports. So it'll be a shame, but I reckon he'll be out for probably like at least the rest of the year.
And Paul Kent has spoken publicly. He was quoted. He says, a couple of ribs are probably not like they should be. Before laughing and adding, you win them, you wear them, mate. Such is life. Who cares? It's done. Can't change it now. Who cares? It's done. Can't change it now. That doesn't sound like someone who's prepared to sort of change their ways, maybe give up drinking. Those aren't the quotes of somebody who's sort of at a point where they need to have a bit of a look at themselves, a bit of self-reflection. Those are the quotes of somebody who seems to be very stubborn and seems to be sort of doubling down on things to me.
We talked about it before, right, with Paul Gallen, when Paul Gallen had the issue. Like, it's hard. I don't think that these famous people should ban themselves from going out. I think the issue is people, just people in general are idiots, and it's hard for these famous people to be able to go out. Like, at the time, Mark Geyer said they all should just not go out. But I was listening to Jake O'Driscoll on Johnny Yap's podcast. He did it the day after he appeared on our podcast, and he was talking about his history and when he was a bouncer and he'd be at the casino and things like that, and they would like call down and say, this famous person is here, watch out for them. And it's kind of like I know this was all outside with Kenny, but it's kind of like a little bit on the venue. If you want famous people to frequent your venue, you also have to take care of them and prevent this kind of stuff from happening. we don't know why they got in there blue and what happened. And obviously, old mate might have dollars if he's hiring Chris Murphy.
Yeah, you'd have to think. I don't know for a fact, but you really are thinking he's just happy to do this for nothing.
It's an easy job. Like it's an easy job.
Yeah,
it's
and
just
he gets publicity. Not that Chris Murphy needs it, but he gets publicity out of it.
But yeah, like it's clubs and pubs and venues need to take care of this kind of stuff to prevent it from happening as well. Because famous people, when you're famous, a lot of things can happen, and people in general, like, can be stupid. You know, they can create these situations. Like the whole thing with Paul Gallen last year, because we were doing a podcast, was some guys walked up to him and he took photos and he was all friendly, but then they started to act like idiots. You know, they started to act like idiots, and then in the end, it got out of hand. And the venue should have taken care of it. Paul Gallen shouldn't have got to the point where it shouldn't have got to the point where it was escalated to that, because the venue should have noticed it, pulled the guys up and said, get the hell out. And yeah, like this one was outside. It was from a restaurant. So, you know, restaurants don't have security and stuff.
Yeah, but I think from Paul Kent's point of view, like in that scenario, you just got to learn to walk away. You have to. It's your only option if that happens.
Yeah, 100%.
Because the alternative is doing what you've done and getting charged and getting stood down from your job. The main thing is that he's been stood down from his career. That the charge is nothing, as we've said. It's nothing. It's a slap on the wrist.
You watch the video. He didn't walk away. He kept coming, and he was like taking off his watch.
Yeah,
that kind of behaviour as well, man. Whenever I see that I'm going to take off my watch. Like, how tough do you think you are that you need to take your watch off because you're going to get in blue? You don't want to ruin your watch. Like, and then dudes will take their shirt off and stuff like that. Scream, I'm an MMA fighter. Like, that's the weakest, like, not weakest, but like most stupid behavior. That puts you completely in the wrong. Whereas, like, I'm going to take off my watch so I don't damage it and we're going to fight. Dude.
Yeah. And then that's the thing about it. Like, he may not, he clearly didn't connect with any of his punches. I mean, it was an ordinary effort at fighting, let's face it. But, I mean, he intended to.
Yeah, exactly.
His intention was to hurt this guy. He went right, he ran right up to him, a number of people tried to hold him back, and he just brushed them aside and went straight to this guy. The only thing that really stopped him was probably that he'd had so much to drink that he just couldn't lay a glove on him when push came to shove in the fight. But the intention was there.
And that's what I mean with the whole behaviour of it, the video of it. He's the guy that is totally like, in the video, seemingly at fault. And so surely his News Corp is now like, all right, man, like, you've been charged. It's clear that you're an idiot. Like, we're just going to have to put you down as, sack you basically because you're an idiot.
Yeah, and the man who, the 35-year-old man, there were photos of him that looked like a painful head injury and a confronting photo that surfaced of the 35-year-old man. Willie Mason weighed into this whole thing and said, among a lot of other things, it was hilarious. He thought he went into that in detail on his podcast. I'll tell you what, it's not good timing for Ricky Stewart that Paul Kent's been stood down from the media. His chief media PR person is out of action at a time where he's just lost 40-0 and his team's just gone out of the top 8. So it's really not good timing for Ricky Stewart that Paul Kent, his chief cheerleader in the media, is out of play.
Yeah, they got a hard game tomorrow. They're playing the Sea Eagles.
Yeah, well, good luck.
Don't want to be the Raiders losing a couple in a row and getting carved up. Daly Cherry Evans got his charge downgraded, so he's going to be playing.
So he's going to be playing.
Moving along. So Phil Gould, I watched the footage. There's conjecture that Phil Gould's going to be hit with a breach notice over comments he made about the NRL. It wasn't politically stated. He said the NRL is stupid, our game is stupid. And club representatives are not allowed to criticise the NRL, but he was doing it as a media representative.
This is the thing. He should have to restrict his comments in the same way as every other club official. He shouldn't be afforded special treatment because he's a media commentator as well. If he doesn't like that, well, that's too bad. Then pick one or the other then. If it's too much of an issue, if you want to be a media commentator as well, that's fine. But you've got to work within the parameters of, the restrictions of club officials over public comments. And again, if he doesn't like that restriction, well, then pick one or the other. You're either the Bulldogs GM or you're a Channel 9 commentator, not both.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm curious as to whether they will actually fine him. We'll probably find out today or tomorrow.
Well, they should, because... and I'm a Bulldogs supporter, and I'm saying that he can't have it both ways. He can't be treated any differently. He has to toe the line like he's a club official.
The funny thing is, to me, like, maybe the NRL is too scared to breach him, because then he can use his media thing to criticise them further. And it's what they could do. The NRL could implement rules because of Phil Gould to prevent people who are currently employed in a club-based job from being in the media as well. They can do that, If he takes it too far, that's the kind of thing the NRL does. Like, that's the reactions they tend to have, They could, in theory, implement a rule that says if you're employed by an NRL club in any regard, from football manager to player to coach to whatever, then you can't also be in the media. That's the kind of thing they do, and he's got to they could be too scared to fine him, because the second they fine him, he's going to be in the media the next day criticising them about the fine, and it's just going to become a war of words. And Phil Gould has a much bigger mouthpiece than the NRL has. The NRL has everyone else, but Phil Gould has himself and everyone else. So they can't win an argument with him in public, actually. But what they can do is say, from 2025, you can't be in the media and involved with a club.
Can't be employed by the media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an idea. Personally, I wouldn't go that far with it, but I would just say that, well, if you are doing both, well, then you're just treated the same as any other club official. So whatever restrictions are placed on club officials in terms of the comments they make about the NRL, well, they still apply to you, whether you're in the media or not in the media. And if you don't like it, well, then, yes, pick one or the other.
They're meant to. They're meant to still apply. But I think, there's a whole fear factor with Phil Gould. Because
you're right. They're scared of him. I think he's really close to Peter V'landys, I believe. So I feel like that's what Peter V'landys is close with him. Peter V'landys, I'm sure, would talk to him on the phone and bounce ideas off him. So I think when push comes to shove, Peter V'landys is really reluctant to really come down hard on Phil Gould, and it's a lot easier for him to just hope that this goes away than turn this into a war with Phil Gould.
What he was saying, most people agree with, because he was criticising the
Appy Coruscant.
Well, then it was a whole thing, because he was talking about, he repeated the NRL is stupid a lot in the whole thing, because he touched on the Appy Coruscant decision, which is what kicked off the thing, right? Because the Appy Coruscant decision was stupid, and Graham Annesley's comments about it, the justification was because it's a rule. That's the rules. That's the rules. And Phil Gould was saying, that's stupid. That rule is stupid then. And our game is stupid for having that as the rule. But then he also touched on the 7-tackle set from the ball going dead. And he touched on the 10-metre dropout rule changes this year. Like he said, it's stupid. This is stupid. The things our game does is stupid. And it's true. A lot of people agree with him. You could have just phrased it better because being you're involved with the club, you're not allowed to say it's like that. You could have said, I don't like it, but because what they're not allowed to do is basically make statements of fact and criticising the NRL refs and stuff like that. They're allowed to present their opinion. Like Ricky Stewart is allowed to go into a press conference afterwards and say, no, he's not the... Benji Marshall is allowed to go into the press conference after and say, I think that they got it wrong about Appy Coruscant's try. He's allowed to say that. He's not allowed to say, the refs are stupid, they got it wrong, So he's phrasing. That's the biggest problem with it. There's... the NRL employs, it's something like... NRL and all its clubs altogether, I saw a thing about it, employs 16,000 people around Australia, something like that. And there's 15,999 people who aren't allowed to say that, and one that is.
Yeah.
Like one.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Yeah, they've got to. He's got to be treated like any other club. As I say, I don't think they should go as far as to ban him from the media. But again, the same rules that apply to everyone else should apply to him. And if he doesn't like it, well, choose one.
Yeah, I don't think they should ban them from the media as well. But that is a path that it could take. Because if they can't win a war of words with Phil Gould, which the NRL definitely can't, their out is to ban everyone from being involved in the media. You know,
I guess then you get to the grey area of, well, the media is a lot bigger than it used to be in the sense that, well, we've got social media now, and he can still get on social media and say what he's got to say, but...
You can get pinged for saying stuff on social media. Like, look at Jerome Luai and one of the Mays, or I can't remember all of them that have been done. Anyway, I'm really curious as to whether they'll actually issue that breach notice, because they never seem to. He should start paying Ricky Stewart's fines. Ricky Stewart hasn't been fined in a while, though. So.
No, don't worry. It won't be far away.
So over at the Bulldogs, we can stick with the Bulldogs. Cameron Ciraldo has made some statements around the Jackson Topine legal action, defending the trainer's character and club's culture. He's basically been saying what everyone has been saying. Obviously, everything that comes out of the Bulldogs right now with regards to this is carefully crafted by the lawyers.
Yes.
Everything. Yes. Because it has to be. What is kind of said is exactly what everyone else has been saying. Who's involved in the game? This is a standard. It's, the trainer did nothing wrong and so on. Well, not in those words, obviously, legalized speak, but it's fair. We keep talking about it, and it's going to keep going until they settle out of court. Yeah.
There was one interesting point that was raised by one of the journalists on NRL 360 during the week, and that was that when this first came to light, it came out of the club that it was 8 players involved in the wrestling, and then someone else said it was 12 players, and now it says that it's coming out that it's up to 35 players, and then you go, I know what we've all said about, how the NRL is not for everyone, and it's not your normal workplace, and these players are really put through the ringer as a matter of routine. But then if it was no big deal, if it was a non-issue, why were they saying it was 8 players or 12 players at the start? Why weren't they honest about it being 35 players?
It's so bizarre. Well, apparently it's not 35 players as well. Like, that's the other thing.
Well, there are reports that it was up to 35.
Yeah. It's just like they still don't say how many it is. Jackson Topine legal thingy has also not said the exact number of players. James Graham, in that conversation on NRL 360, James Graham was saying exactly what we've been talking about. It's just, it wasn't a punishment, it was extra training. And it's a drill that they do anyway. So every now and then, somebody gets shark tanked anyway. It's not even as punishment. People, they shark tank players, what do they call it? Something funny, and it's still got the shark. So in jiu-jitsu and wrestling, it's called a shark tank, right? You're a wounded fish in a shark tank. That's why it's called a shark tank. But they, of course, with rugby league, they don't know how to follow the exact name, so they called it like a shark bait or something like that. They fully don't know how to name anything properly. Just stick with the real names, guys.
Yeah.
And he was saying it's like it just happens anyway, and it was just like he had to do an extra 15 minutes. Now, the 15 minutes comes from 30 players, 30 seconds each. Okay, so that's why they say it's 15 minutes. Also last year, because this is what people aren't really like, they're talking about the difference in players, and that NRL 360 thing, it was 8, it was 12 and stuff like that. Also last year, when it came out, there was reports of an extra hour, an extra half an hour. Like, the time and number of players never added up either. So it's a whole bizarre thing about, why doesn't anybody, not just the Bulldogs, but also Jackson Topine's, Topine, I don't know how to pronounce his name, whatever, Jackson Topine's statement as well, why doesn't that say anything? Why is nobody saying how many players it was? And as I keep talking about, it's actually it's not really that relevant to the legal case, because the legal case is about the effects of the mental health, right? So even if it was one player, So it happened because it was at Robert Whittaker's gym at Smeaton Grange, Gracie Hamada Smeaton Grange, okay, which is a wrestling and jiu-jitsu gym. I think they also work with the Panthers, okay. So in these gyms, jiu-jitsu gyms and stuff like that, we also have things that we call mat enforcers. So if someone is being an idiot, someone is being stupid, someone is doing something dumb, you get a mat enforcer to fully bash them, right? And that can be like the coach puts on a 20-minute round. You get the mat enforcer to bash someone for 20 minutes. But this one, they don't talk about it, like, because it's the mental health thing. They could have put Jackson Topine against a mat enforcer for 20 minutes. Or they could have got 30 guys to fight him or wrestle him, Shark Tank him for 15 minutes. It's all irrelevant. What's relevant is the fact is how he felt from it. Yeah. If it had been the biggest, if they had got, man, I've watched Robert Whittaker compete in jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. If they had got Robert Whittaker, who probably wasn't there, I'm not saying Robert Whittaker was there, I don't know if he was or not, it's just his gym. If they had got him to bash Jackson Topine for 30 seconds, as opposed to getting somewhere between 8 and 30 players to bash him for somewhere between 15 minutes and an hour and a half, it's all irrelevant. Because how made Jackson Topine feel? That is the whole foundation of the court case. Whether he was held against his civil liberties, whether he was like whatever all those things are. Yeah. And it's weird that no one will say what it is anyway. Because they're trying to say like, it was only 8 people. It was only 30 people for 15 minutes. It was only one guy. Like that's so what?
It's all about, was the punishment excessive or not?
And how he felt about it.
Well, that as well, but it's about, was it an excessive punishment? It's not about, we know that it's not a normal workplace. We know that the workplace of an NRL club is not like the workplace we have here, for example. You'd never come in here and have to wrestle 30 people. Or at least I'd hope not.
Start implementing that on developers sometimes.
I'd hope not anyway. So that's what it comes down to is, was this an excessive punishment, and were all those mental health, I guess, issues that I mentioned the other day, that statement from Topine's legal team, that he suffered anxiety and all those other things. What was that how it made him feel? That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
So it doesn't matter how long it was, how many people it was, how hard it was, how difficult the thing was. Like I keep saying, I on the day it came out, it was the day before Anzac Day, and he was, that was when the suggestion it was 30 players for 30 seconds each came out, so 15 minutes. Anzac Day, I did a 2-hour open mat where it was 26-minute rounds. I'm a 44-year-old person. And I mentioned it, and I keep talking about it because the length of time and difficulty of it is irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant. But it is weird that it was so... They tried to they gave all different statements. Everyone has been giving different statements for 6 months now. That is weird. Yeah, that it's been like 8 people. It's been like 1 minute. That's weird.
And it's suspicious. You're sus of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like that's fully suspicious. Like that would imply that the Bulldogs thought what they had done was wrong. Yeah. And they were trying to justify the level of difficulty.
Yeah, if you've got no issue with what you've done, then why lie about it?
Yeah, exactly. And so, but then they should have right from the very beginning not concentrated on the level of difficulty and worried more about the mental health of the player affected, because the level of difficulty is not relevant to it. A 44-year-old can do 10 6-minute rounds,
Yeah. Like this. Yeah, I mean, among those other things I mentioned the other day, one was anxiety. I think deprivation of liberty was another one. Panic attacks.
Because he wanted to leave and they wouldn't let him.
And panic attacks was another one. Being forced to do things against his will, as you say. So this is it. This is certainly not a black and white case, and it's going to keep coming up, isn't it?
They're just going to get rid of it
until we reach that likely
settle it and get it out of there. Yeah. The kickoff continues to remain in the news because, yes, 4 knockouts, HIAs based on kickoff responses. Cameron Smith has called for the kickoff to remain. Every rugby league player basically is calling for kickoffs to remain. I haven't seen any rugby league player or ex-rugby league player or rugby league anyone saying it should go. I don't actually know who's calling for it to go, to be honest. Who is calling for it to go?
Dean Ritchie has been the Daily Telegraph journalist. He was the one who sort of kicked this off. I think about a month ago he wrote an article about it. But the thing that concerns me is that now that this is out there, this has opened up a Pandora's box, and it's just going to keep coming up and coming up and coming up until we reach the now what I fear is inevitable outcome of the kickoff going. And I hate that. I don't want to see it go.
No, it's dumb.
But you sort of go, oh, yeah, thanks, Dean Ritchie, for writing that article. Now you've made it a focus, and now this is just going to keep coming up every time a player gets knocked out off the kickoff. And we could have a situation where by round 1 next year, the kickoff's no longer in existence.
Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. I was listening to Max Holloway, because we talk about the concussions, Max Holloway on Joe Rogan this morning, and he mentioned like that they now have in the UFC or from the commissions, it's a 30-day no contact requirement after a fight. So they're not even allowed to do contact in the gym for 30 days. So, the NRL's got their 11-day thing.
Yeah, their token 11-day standard. And that's 11 days, which conveniently only rules you out for one game and you're back for...
And Justin Gaethje, who got knocked out, is taking 6 months off after being knocked unconscious. Again, it's different because those guys fight like once every 6 months or whatever, but it's rather than ending the kickoff to prevent concussions, just take care of the concussed people better.
Yeah, and there were some really good quotes from James Graham on this. He said, if you want the game to be completely safe, you're playing the wrong game. He said, you're watching the wrong game. You cannot if you view the game through the prism of safety, and that's all you view it through. That sums it up. If doctors and lawyers ran the game, there would be no game.
Exactly.
Because it's a dangerous sport that's not for everybody. There's men running into each other at high speeds. Any doctor would tell you that you shouldn't play rugby league at all. So if you listen to doctors, there is no game.
It's nonsensical to me because they have the UFC, MMA. That's way worse.
Yeah, and I've said it a few times before, but they're coming for the kickoff now. Once they get the kickoff, what's going to come next? Again, they banned the shoulder charge, right? I used to love watching the shoulders. I loved it when Sonny Bill Williams, hit Joel Clinton in that preliminary final in 2004, and that water sprayed up off them. I used to love it when Sonny Bill did a shoulder charge. I used to love it when there were fights in the game. I thought it added a level of attraction for the fans, and it brought people through the gates. And it added an unpredictability to the ticket price for the fans. Yeah. Taking away the shoulder charge and taking away the punching has taken away unpredictability for the fans. If you take away the kickoff and that collision at the kickoff, or you're taking away another element of unpredictability for the fans.
It'll keep going, and it'll make the game boring.
It's just going to make the game, the more they take away, it's going to make the game more and more predictable.
It doesn't... I don't like the whole thing, like the game's gone soft. I get this in my chat groups and stuff like, game's gone soft, they're all soft and stuff like that. Oops. I don't like that response. It's the issue to me is not that the game's gone soft. The issue to me is that they're letting people outside the game dictate what the game should be. It's not that the game's gone soft, because like I said, nobody in rugby league wants that to happen. None of the players, coaches, vast majority of fans want them to ban the kickoff. It's the people outside the game that are trying to make the game soft, if that's the word you want to use. The game hasn't gone soft. Society has, and they're negatively affecting the game and making it worse. And, what's it got to do with them? If you don't like it, man, just don't watch it.
Yeah, or don't... If you're a parent who doesn't like it and you don't want your kid to play, all right, well, don't have your kid playing it. Get them to play soccer or get them to play AFL. You don't have to. They don't have to play rugby league. Rugby league's not for everybody.
Honestly, every sport, doesn't matter what it is, can have very devastating injuries.
Yeah.
Like really, really devastating injuries. There was a jiu-jitsu thing. Like, jiu-jitsu is relatively safe, and I've seen some pretty bad injuries in jiu-jitsu, but there was a jiu-jitsu thing, I think I touched on it before, where a guy did a standard, they call it the Leo Vieira back take, where he rolled over the back of someone on a visiting person, and that guy broke his neck and was paralyzed. So does that mean we should ban back takes in jiu-jitsu competitions? No. It's like you go in knowing that this is going to happen. That whole thing was really bad. Like, the guy ended up suing the insurance company for $46 million. And that was fair because the insurance company wouldn't pay him. And so they tried to, there was a lot of misunderstanding about it. And they thought that the guy was suing the gym for $46 million. But actually it was the insurance company. What they really got to change there is the insurance companies, not jiu-jitsu. And it's the same as in rugby league. You don't want to do it. You don't like people getting hit hard like that. Just don't do it. Don't put your kids in it. Don't watch it. Leave it to everyone else. Because there is, seriously, rugby league, they play 26 games a year. All right? And I have a thing whereas there's a level, like, how tough is a sport, how many games you can play, how many matches you can have per year as an individual. Boxing and MMA is like 2. Okay, if you think rugby league, because like 4 players out of the 400 and whatever 30 that have played so far this year have head clashed in the kickoff. If you think you need to cancel the kickoff, you need to cancel all of MMA.
That's the thing. If it were up to doctors, there'd be no rugby league, there'd be no boxing, and there'd be no UFC.
Yeah,
doctors would say these sports should be banned.
Yeah, all of it. There's nothing good. You have to ban punches. And you have to ban heel hooks, and you have to, like, a heel hook can have a devastating effect in where it tears all of the ligaments in your knee and stops you from being able to walk for 12 months. So I think they need to ban that. Like, it's just a stupid thing. And like, really, it's going to lose fans as well, and it's not going to gain fans. None of these people who want this are going to go, well, now that they don't have the kickoff, I'm going to watch it.
No. You're just taking more and more people away from it.
Yeah, and that's stupid.
More and more.
Last week was the Anzac round, and obviously we had 3 games on Anzac Day. They had Anzac ceremonies, which were they're honouring our troops, Australian and New Zealand NRL, Australian and New Zealand troops. Now, some people have been a bit complaining because the other games across the round have also had Anzac ceremonies, and they're saying they shouldn't be allowed to have Anzac ceremonies on the days that aren't Anzac Day. My mind is I don't care.
I mean, I to be honest, I sort of tend to agree. I think you probably only need to have it on April 25. It was the same in the AFL. There were 2 AFL games on Anzac Day as well as the 3 NRL ones. I sort of think the whole, last post ceremony and everything, I think it should probably just be left to April 25 and not the rest of the round. That having been said, though, if they're going to go overkill on something, I'd rather them go overkill on that than all those other rubbish PC causes that they go overkill on. At least Anzac Day means something. And so if you're going to stretch that out, well, I can live with that a lot better than I can about some of the other meaningless causes they bang on about.
My thing is, I don't really care because it's the bits I don't watch if I'm at home anyway. They don't appear on television. And if I'm at the game, I'm at the game, and it doesn't have any effect on me because they can fill it in with a bunch of people doing silly competitions. Like, I don't mind the competitions. I don't care what they put on, to be honest. As long as they when I'm at the game, as long as they put something on. And I've talked about it before, like at the NFL. I don't know what the people do while there's so much stoppage in play. But in rugby league, they have pre-game shows and cheerleaders and all that kind of stuff. I don't care what they put on, to be honest. Like, I just don't care as long as there's something on. Because I can't imagine just sitting in the stadium and having to talk to my friends. If they want to have an Anzac round honouring the Anzacs, as you said, I prefer that than some of the other nonsense they do.
Yeah. There is that argument that, well, Anzac Day is on April 25, and if you're going to mark it on April 26, you may as well mark it on November the 5th or Christmas Day or Boxing Day. I mean, April 26 to April 25 is the same as November the 15th to April 25. No relevance whatsoever. So there is that line of thought that I sort of get. But as I say, it's certainly not the biggest deal in the world if they go a few extra days marking this, because it is something that means something. And I don't really... some people were saying, it detracts from it a bit if you do it the few days after. I don't think it detracts from it. It's just more whether it's necessary or not. But I don't think it detracts from it.
No, it doesn't.
To doing some extra ceremonies, I don't think it detracts from it. No.
Yeah, it's fine. And if they really want to do it across every game, they should just have Magic Round on Anzac Day.
Just have every game on Anzac Day.
That's what. Now they've got 3. It used to be 1. Now there's 3.
I mean, maybe that's an issue. Maybe you just keep the one. You go Roosters, Dragons in the NRL, Essendon, Collingwood in the AFL, and leave it to those teams on Anzac Day. And not have any other teams.
I always like I like the addition of the Warriors being on Anzac Day. I liked that. That was who did the Warriors play? They
were playing the Storm right up until this year. This year they played the Titans on Anzac Day.
Yeah, it should have stuck to that, but
I don't know why you build up a tradition of playing against the Storm. And then all of a sudden they play the Titans this year. I can't work that out. But anyway, I don't care what they put on. In America they bloody sing the national anthem before every game and stuff like that. I don't care. They can do whatever they want as long as something's on. Because the way I always figure going to games is I pay not just for the game. I pay for the period I'm allowed to be there. For them, the people that I'm paying. The clubs, the organisation, to put on a show for me from the moment the gates open to the moment the gates close. So stuff like the games they have and the little kids playing, and at the basketball they have dances and stuff like that. So I don't care what they put on as long as there's something. Yeah.
It's got to be something because I'm paying. I wish it would go back to the 3 leagues and then I could watch 3 games and be there for a whole day and stuff like that. But, if wishes will... I don't know what the saying is. So over to the Roosters. Luke Keary announces he'll retire at the end of this season. Didn't he just resign for an additional year?
Yeah, he did. So, I think that extra year, 2025, his contract was worth $800,000. So he's leaving that one aside. So that's a lot of money. I know he's obviously accumulated a lot of cash over the course of his career. But no matter how much money you got, $800,000 in a year is a lot of money to walk away from. Yeah,
they I was reading a thing. There's a bunch of cashed up clubs for next year. Like heaps of clubs that are just fully cashed up. They have so much money for next year.
And they have to spend 95% of it because of the salary cap ceiling.
Apparently there isn't a lot of players off contract. So
that's the danger with getting yourself that far under the cap for next year when you know you have to buy the rules. Fill up 95%.
Yeah, it's like I got a lot of money, but there's no one to buy. So there's a lot of interest in like Super League and rugby union players.
Just sign them on 1-year deals on the minimum wage. A bunch of players on 1-year deals on the minimum wage. So
it's going to be interesting to see. But like the Luke Keary release is apparently the rumour is because they're going to chase some rugby union guy. And so we'll have to see what happens there. But the Roosters are now one of the cashed up clubs. Like the Dragons are fully cashed up. I can't remember who it was. I saw a list of them in the order, but the Dragons are the most cashed up, and then the Roosters are now 3rd or something like that with the most money available for next year. But there's no one to buy. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah, great career for Luke Keary. Over 200 games in the NRL. Won a premiership with the Rabbitohs in 2014. 2 back-to-back premierships with the Roosters in 2018 and 2019, winning the Clive Churchill Medal in 2018. Also played an Origin game for New South Wales in 2020 and 2 tests for the Kangaroos. So certainly a career Luke Keary can be proud of.
Also about 400 concussions.
Yes, and...
had to start wearing the headgear.
He made the decision that he's going to put the rest of his life first and pull the pin at the end of the season.
Meanwhile... Sam Walker is off contract, and there's some suggestions that the Broncos should chase him, whereas Adam Reynolds has said they shouldn't. He's off contract end of 2025, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sam Walker's off contract at the same time with the Roosters, and so then there's the thought that, well, there's your natural replacement. Reynolds retires, and then Sam Walker takes his spot. And that's his home state, Sam Walker, his home state of Queensland. So, yeah, but Adam Reynolds thinks that the Broncos should just stick with what they've got and not sign Sam Walker. So that's an interesting one. I don't think it's a case so much of, Adam Reynolds being worried that Sam Walker's going to take his spot, because Adam Reynolds, as we know, is very much in the twilight of his career.
Adam Reynolds is finishing up.
He's going to be finishing up anyway.
This is his last. He's only been extended for 1 year. And that's
so there's not, it's not a situation where, I don't want this guy taking my job, so I'm going to say that we don't want him. It's not that. But yeah, interesting comments.
Yeah,
anyway.
I wonder who's in the juniors at the Broncos that Adam Reynolds feels could take his spot.
I'll just have a look at that. So they've got... I'm just having a look here for some of these other players. Yeah, they've got... Reynolds is talking about the players they've got there. They've got highly thought of teenager Kobe Black. They've got Jock Madden. Ezra Mam obviously at 5'8". Even Reece Walsh could fill in the halves if they really needed him to. So... but I think Sam Walker is happy at the Roosters anyway, so... interesting.
I don't know why Adam Reynolds is talking about that, but I'm really curious as to what he thinks the alternate is, because they would be looking at Sam Walker to replace Adam Reynolds when he retires.
Yeah, they would be, absolutely.
So, I wonder who the Roosters would even replace with. Anyway, that's it for rugby league for the week. What's today? Thursday. The week. Other sports around the world, we continue to see Rafael Nadal trying to get back to form to compete for the French Open, and unfortunately, again, it hasn't been going very well.
Yeah, no, he's bowed out at the Madrid Open, lost to Keary, the number 30th seed, lost in straight sets there, so... disappointing. Did get some wins on the board. 4 matches under his belt at Madrid. So that's some progress from Barcelona, but you're still probably looking for a bit more before you think he's a genuine chance of winning the French Open. He's got one more hit out in Rome, which is the main lead-in event to the French Open, before he makes a decision on whether he's going to play at Roland Garros. So, it's all going to come down to that, how he goes at Rome, and then at the end of that, he's going to make a decision. I'm still leaning towards, look, don't ruin your great record at the French Open. 14 French Open wins, only 3 losses in his career there. I'm certainly of the view still at this stage that please just leave that be and don't jeopardise that record by playing the French Open and most likely being knocked out early.
Max Holloway mentioned on the thing, it's great. He had a great saying, you should finish the game shouldn't finish you.
Yes.
He talked a lot about exactly what we've been talking about with Rafael the last few weeks. His legacy can be severely tarnished and ruined. Yeah. Because he's so good, but he lets the game finish him instead of him choosing when to bow out. He's always a champion. One of the greatest tennis players of all time. But if he keeps going, he's just going to be Andy Murray, an unknown who people will say, but do you remember when he used to be good? Yeah.
Well, Shane Warne timed it perfectly. Australia lost the Ashes in 2005 for the first time in a long time. I think it was the first time since 1989 that England had won the Ashes. So England broke a 16-year Ashes drought. And then Shane Warne said to himself, well, I'm not going to retire until we win back the Ashes. And then they won back the Ashes in 2006-07, 5-0. And then he said, right, I'm bowed out at 5-0 winning the Ashes. Doesn't get any better than that in terms of timing your retirement.
And you
so
can look
Rafael Nadal could take a leaf out of Shane Warne's book here.
Yeah, you look at Dave Warner, his legacy is starting to get more and more and more tarnished as we go on, So he should have bowed out. while he was in form, but he's not. And that's one of the hardest things about sport, being in sports, I guess, is knowing when to leave, because it becomes your whole life.
Yeah.
It becomes their whole life, their identity.
Yeah. They don't know themselves without it.
And then leaving and they're out. Anyway, we hope to see Rafa do the best thing for him, but I would hate to see him tarnish his legacy. Social media blower-uppers, Vicsophios 4703. Where's the general been lately, mate? Vic is becoming one of the new general.
The new general, yeah.
I agree with your comments about NRL 360 without Kenty. The show is nothing without him, but in saying that, I thought James Graham was good. Seeing Kenty fired up and getting stuck into the NRL, MRC, etc., asking questions where others don't go near is most entertaining. He's paid to have an opinion, and not everyone is going to like it. Yeah, I love James Graham. I love his opinions. I love the things he says. I think he's really well spoken. But NRL 360, I don't really watch. Like I think I said before, I don't watch it. But I loved Paul Kent on the Sunday roast. Yeah, like that was the thing. It was. And it's unfortunate, but we've talked about him at length today. He's probably going to get stood down for an extended period.
I think I have been watching it this week without Paul Kent on it, and with James Graham there replacing him. And James Graham has been really good. He had a really good discussion. I quoted him before on his thoughts on these calls for the kickoff to be banned, and obviously he's strongly opposed to that. And he had a really good clash with a couple of the journos on that subject. It was really entertaining. So I think it was Gordon Tallis who replaced Kent last year. I think James Graham is a lot better than Tallis, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is missing something without Paul Kent, that's for
Definitely.
sure. But hey, by the looks of things, I don't think we're going to be seeing Paul Kent for a fair while on that show.
That's it for the week. Yes, for the week. Good luck to Ben Hornby tonight in his first game with the Rabbitohs.
Yes, he's going to need it, I think, going up against Penrith.
No Nathan Cleary still. Shouldn't make any difference. Not at all.
Oh, so Cleary's been ruled out of that one.
Yeah, that's what I saw this morning. He was named. He's ruled out. Yep.
Right, okay.
So he was named to come back.
He had some tightness in that hamstring after that return, and they're just... I mean, Penrith can obviously afford to play it safe with these things, so with all the depth that they have...
And especially going up against Raiders with no time to... Rabbitohs with no time to prepare with a new...
Well, they've learned from the mistake of Newcastle, haven't they, with Kalen Ponga playing him when he shouldn't have been played, and now, look, he's gone for most of the year. Penrith obviously smarter than that and resting Cleary from this one. Yeah,
and good luck to the Bulldogs against the Tigers this week and the Sharks.
If they don't win that game, I'm going to be very angry on Monday when I come in. I'm going to have some things to say about that.
And good luck to the Dragons taking on the first place Sharks. God knows what's going to come out of the Dragons this week.
Yeah, fingers crossed, eh?
Don't forget to follow at SmartB app on all socials and sign up to SmartB for the tip of the day, daily best bets, and news and information about your favourite sport straight to your inbox. Have a lovely weekend. See you on Monday, Dan.
Thanks, John. See you then, mate.